Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a quick comparison of the 1210 stove versus the Starlight stove here, the modified version. And I'm going to be doing like boil tests and stuff like that. Hopefully I'll just cut this video quick and get everything done like that. You can see I filled 60 milliliters of fuel into here, and you can see it's borderline, it's probably just about too much. I'd say 50-55 milliliters, about 2 ounces, just under 2 ounces is the max fuel you want to put in the 1210 stove. I put too much and hopefully it won't get spoiled on me. Okay, so I made a slight mistake. I lit the stove without water in it, so it took about 10 or 15 seconds to prime, I'd say, and then it was going. So I started the timer when I lit it. And so that could have affected it by about 30 seconds, I'd say, based on my final results. So I'm boiling 2 cups of water, or rather, right at the 500 milliliter line on this. And we'll see how long it takes to get that to a boil. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. Tis boiling. That is right at 8 minutes on the timer. That's 6.5 minutes to a boil, which is pretty consistent about what I've had. I'm just gonna let this boil out. It's 78 degrees in my kitchen. It's the way my AC set up. The kitchen's always hot, the hottest in the place. So think of a hot summer night with very minimal wind. That's about the boil time you should expect. 6 to 6.5 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes. Let's go with that. Yeah, pretty good. And the thing is, it has the sticks on here. I'm going to do a test without the sticks, as well as with the 1210 stove with the sticks and without the sticks, and see how well it does. Okay, it finally stopped after a really long time. So like I said, just over 2 ounces, just over the little holes, which is actually over capacity tiny bit. It went for 31 minutes and 18 seconds. I think I started the timer actually just after I lit it. Like 10 seconds after I lit it too. So, if you've max capacity, if I did it right, probably would be exactly 30 minutes, which is very impressive. I just sat here for a long time, just like web browsed on my phone. But yeah, so I'm gonna test out the Starlight next, max capacity, and put that without the stakes, because that's how the Starlight modified is supposed to be used, without the stakes, and then test that. Okay, so I just wanted to show you one of the coolest aspects of the Starlight stove, and that is, can't really see it in here, it's the wick. So I poured an ounce of fuel into this. I'm gonna turn it over. Oh, look at there, nothing drops out of it. I put a solid ounce of fuel into this, or 30 milliliters of this cup. Shoving her red is not accurate, but you know, whatever the measurement of this cup is, 30 milliliters of the cup from Trail Designs, that's what I'm using for my measurements. And what I'm going to do, I need to look up real quick what the max, I think it's 1.5 ounces is max, but I'm going to look it up for safety reasons. If not, I'm going to go full 2 ounces in this. I've just poured in another 1/2 ounce. I looked on Zelf Stove's website, or the Starlight stove where I bought this from, and it said this specific stove, which I'm sure is more all the Starlight stoves, is 1.5 ounces of fuel capacity. So that's what I have in here. It says 1 ounce in suspension from the wick, and I guess about 1.5 ounces can be in suspension. I'm sure not as well. So maybe I'm gonna risk it here and put full 2 ounces in this and see what can happen. Well, lesson learned. I don't know if you can see, there's alcohol on top of the stove, and there's that much left. Me pouring it in. I filled up to 15 right there. So pretty much 1.5 ounces max capacity of this stove. I'm gonna go pour that off, and since it takes so long to burn, I'm not gonna go burn it off and refill it. I'm just gonna come over here. I guess prof the little extra. That is good now. And so you can say just somewhere between 1.5 ounces and probably like 1.6 1.7 ounces. Probably like 1.6 is when it's in there, but we'll go with that. And we'll see how long that burns completely, and give or take, you know, once it's finished. With the Starlight, and as you can see, no stakes in there. The thing I really like about that is I use a mini bic to light my stoves, and I sometimes have to get down in it like this in that stove to light it, or, you know, light a little piece of grass or twig or something, and then or stick it in there, light the alcohol and stick it, and it lights pretty easy. But then I can just flick this up next to the screen on Starlight, and it lights right up with ease. And I really like that about the Starlight, as well as the suspension of the alcohol. So in case you know, I hit it like that, and it hits the stove. This one almost exploded on me once, like poofed everywhere, and this one it wouldn't. And that's awesome. Hey, let's see for boiling. Oh, that was hot. Yep, mini boils, and I don't expect it to be much of a harder boil. That was 8.5 minutes from when I lit the stove. So yes, a little bit slower than the 1210 stove over here, but many advantages of it. We'll see how long it burns on an ounce and a half of fuel and stuff like that. The main advantage I really love about the Starlight, no stakes, as well as the not flipping it over type of deal, and it lights better. There's a lot of advantages I feel to the Starlight stove. And before I mentioned I was trying to blow this out to restart the test because I had too much in it, and I could not blow it out. Even put the pot on top of it and blew on it, and it would not blow out, which is pretty impressive on itself for an alcohol stove for not blowing out. And then this one will easily blow out, and then you can just use this cap off the fuel, so you really don't even have to measure the fuel, which is awesome. I love it. So I'll get back to you and tell you how long this thing boils for. Okay, well, now it's 22.5 minutes, and you can see it's petering out. I don't know what the word is. And you can't really... You can kind of see through that little hole right there. It's still lit. Pretty much it's out. It's probably about 23 minutes, and that's enough to keep the water hot. Pretty much. So I'm gonna go take this off. I'm gonna turn up the light real quick. It's pretty much gone. I'll update when it's out. It went out right around 24 minutes, 20 seconds or so. And pretty much after 22 minutes, the flame was just pretty much useless. And my quick math between that 1210 stove and that stove is right about the same efficiency. 30-ish minutes for that stove, and 22 for that, and that holds 2 ounces, that holds 1.5, and you're put around to get the same efficiency of that stove. At that stove is 22.5 minutes for this stove versus 30 minutes for that stove. About the same efficiency, if you ask me, within margin of error. But every other video I've seen, the Starlight stove wins hands down for efficiency, and I'm not gonna lie, it probably does, as well as all the number of advantages I've shown. But I'm gonna keep on going in this video and showing what these stakes, how much of a difference do the stakes make in terms of the height on the Caldera cone. And we'll get to that now. Next test, doing this 1210 stove without stakes, which is not how you're supposed to do it, and with 30 milliliters of this cup of fuel, which is about 1 ounce. And just for precaution, we're not doing full boil test, full capacity. We are doing just boil test, just to see how long it takes to boil without the stakes. Here's some water rumbling right about 8 minutes. As recording this video is about 8:15. Now slight couple bubbles rising up. It's about 8:30, so right about the same as the Starlight stove. I'd say. Now full boil test, I'd say I feel like, this would probably burn longer, but then you're not getting the advantage of the Starlight stove and such like that. Let's see, this should be about 8:40, I want to believe. It actually looks like the Starlight stove is a tiny bit faster. Maybe by about 30 seconds. So that's food for thought. Definitely. I have a feeling that the Starlight stove is going to suffer a lot being with the stakes on there, which there's no point. The point of the Starlight stove, though, is to get rid of those stakes because of the thinness of it. Has to be boiling now. Yeah, it is a boil. A little tiny boil. That's about 9 minutes. I'm going to give it 9 minutes for the 1210 stove without stakes. Finally finished with 1 ounce of fuel. The 1210 stove burned for just under 19 minutes. 18:55 it went completely dead. So about 18:50, which is pretty darn impressive off of 1 ounce of fuel. Which I guess, how long did the 1210 stove? Yeah, the 1210 stove burned, well, that's an ounce and a half for 22 minutes. So it makes it seem like the 1210 stove is a little bit more efficient than the Starlight, but of course, this is an unrealistic test when you're indoors. It's pretty hot in here at 78 degrees and no wind, so that can make a big difference. But I still, even if it was less efficient for the Starlight over here, I think I would still take it just for the advantages of the wick. And just once it's done boiling, you can blow it out and save the fuel. But we'll be getting on to the other last boil test real soon. Just wanted to point out also, since it boils for about 19 minutes, or burn time of 19 minutes on 1 ounce, full stove would probably burn over 35, like this. Not that you need anything cooking for 35 minutes on the trail, but that's up to you, I suppose. Yep, there you go. Yeah, just put about an ounce of fuel into the Starlight stove with the stakes. I don't know if you can really... I can see it, but I guess you can see a tiny bit of blue right there. Anyways, put about an ounce. The problem with this cup is, when you pour it so slowly, it spills over the edge and comes back. So I kind of estimated about an ounce. It's probably plus or minus, like probably plus or minus on this scale, half a teaspoon. Maybe, probably about plus or minus half a teaspoon. But yeah, we'll see approximately how long it takes to boil like that. Probably a lot longer. Okay, as I started this video, it's been 8 minutes since I started the timer, and about 10 seconds less to put it on. And you see little bubbles coming up. I'd say about, to make a solid boil, I'd say about 8.5 minutes. Yep, about 8.5 minutes to boil, and that's exactly the same with and without the lid. I mean, without the steaks, which is actually kind of surprising. I'm not sure if it's getting more air to it. Well, look here, might be a tiny bit bigger flame on if I look under the pot. But I'll tell you how long it burns, and you can compare from there. Okay, it's 16.5 minutes, and it's sputtering out as well. So 1 ounce of fuel, approximately, plus or minus the about teaspoon, or what do we call it, 4th teaspoon, whatever I showed earlier. It's 16.5 minutes burn time, which I mean is good, which makes it's odd that it doesn't burn as long as the 1210 stove, which I must be the only one to do that. I think eventually I'm going to do the same exact test outdoors, to where you can get some actual environments, like cooler weather, a little bit of a breeze, some sun maybe involved, and that's definitely going to affect it a lot. Just a slight breeze, I've tested can affect it by several minutes, and I think it's pretty much out. Nice. It's still sputtering away. Can't really see it. It's still going. But might add some more to this video, but if not, it's been fun. I spent the last solid hour and a half doing this. But yeah. My little fuel bottles and stuff. if you want a little tip, just before I remember, this is like just my whole box of just fuel. It's right here. Got the cat stove. Don't really use it, I just made it just because it's pretty fun. I have a 1 liter bottle here, marked red, just to be extra safe, of alcohol. And then I have another can of it down below my sink here. And so I fill up this bottle, and this makes it much easier to pour. So I can just get a big funnel, stick it in here, just pour out the can, because you know anyone that's poured out these cans of fuel. I'm just gonna show you the Asian alcohol can. Oh, can't see it. Let me get it out. These cans of fuel, you know what I'm talking about by this thing. And unless you pour it fast, it still splashes everywhere. And you're wasting a ton of fuel, no matter how relatively cheap it is compared to propane. And you're polluting the ground and everything else. But with a funnel going into this, I waste a lot less. And so I can get it all in there, fills quick, and then I can use this to fill at a smaller funnel into these bottles, which I need to do because I just emptied like all of my bottles of fuel. But yeah, this is a fun test. If you have any questions, please comment below and tell me what you think of these two stoves. Thanks for watching. Little bonus test I did at the end of the video. Put exactly a half an ounce of fuel in there, 15 milliliters on the cup. And I wanted to see if the Starlight stove with no things could get water to boil just over 9 minutes. And tis boiling. Of course not a very good boil, but a boil good enough to me, and I'm sure it's hot enough to rehydrate food. Definitely hot enough to make coffee or anything. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I know a lot of people watching these videos are. And I expect it to be kind of useless real soon. I think this is about 10 minutes now. So I think that's enough safety net in the fuel usage to justify half an ounce to be boiling water. Let's see if it can go out here while I'm recording the video. Actually, I'm just gonna cut it. Okay, this is right at 11 minutes. It's starting to die out now. Pretty much half an ounce will last between 10 and 11 minutes, you can say, in the Starlight stove in their ideal conditions. But since it started boiling around 9 minutes, 8.5 to 9 minutes, then you could assume that the extra 1 to 2 minutes of lead time should give you a boil every time, hopefully. Enough for easily for coffee and other stuff like that. My phone ran out of space, so I had to delete a video real quick. But yeah, thanks again guys for watching. Been a fun little test, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.